is. Right on. We are back with GND 10 already. We're ripping through them. Just had Ken Reed in here yesterday, and now we're going to bring it back to the local. Got a local legend here. Big, big.
I appreciate you saying that.
Big sports hero. No, fantastic guy. Old friend. Maybe even an adversary at one point. Competition in the new president of the freshly minted president of the Calgary Stampeders, Jay McNeil. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Good to have you, pal. That's good. Are you? So how you doing? I mean, how many days are you into the new?
It's 2 weeks and a day. So it has been a hectic couple weeks.
I'm sure.
Been amazing, phenomenal. But it's been, it's been, pedal to the floor. Let's go. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you'd only been, I don't know what is going on with my mic here. I'm going to tighten this up. Beauty. So you had, and I know we're going to go back, but you were the VP of business operations and not for very long, right? Like a year or?
Like it was a year and 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
And okay. And then, and then they came to you, like, was this anywhere on your radar at all to be, or?
It was, prior to me accepting the position as VP of business operations, we had talked about John Huffnagel being close to the end of his career, 72 years old.
Yeah.
At some point he was going to retire and start fishing and golfing like he should.
As he should.
Yeah. And he's earned it.
He's earned it. Yeah.
And so, assuming things worked out, that this would be part of the conversation, when that time came. I think, from my perspective, I was probably thinking closer to the end of 2024. Mm-hmm. But when the opportunity came up a few weeks ago, of course I would say yes to that.
Way ago. Yeah. Well, it's your old, you've had a pretty cool career path, and we're going to go back, and it's like you've come back to your roots, of course, but a big part of your life was the oil patch too. And we'll talk about it. But, we mentioned earlier, just while AJ was still in here, and I didn't realize, I just have known you as an acquaintance and a pal, but I didn't realize it was, you grew up in London.
I did.
First, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay. So I played some junior there for the Knights a little bit.
Did you really?
Went to Saunders.
That's what high school I went to.
You went to Saunders?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I'm probably a couple years older, so maybe we, same high school. Isn't that amazing?
Shit. Yeah. Well, that's wild. So you grew up there, and then, you got into obviously high school football.
Yep.
And so were you always a massive, I mean, you're a giant dude. You're slender now. Take care of yourself.
Thank you for qualifying.
But yeah, you're just a big lad. So did they beg you to come out, or were you in on football right away?
It's funny is always the biggest kid in my class.
Yeah.
Growing up, from as long as I could remember, I was always twice the size of everybody else. And
right.
When I got to high school, grade 9, I was still one of the biggest kids in the school, even, at 14 years old.
Right.
And that was we had junior football, we had senior football, and the junior football coach, found me like day 2 and said, you should come and play football.
Right.
And I thought I was a pretty aggressive kid, and you get to hit somebody every day. And so I said, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
I lasted 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, 2 weeks practicing every day. It was taken away from hanging out with my friends, and I quit.
You quit?
I just quit. And it was one of those things. At that point in my lifetime, like I said, 14 years old, you're young, but I'd played every sport.
Yeah.
And I'd quit every sport and never thought twice about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hockey was the big one, but for whatever reason, I missed registration 1 year, and then I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to play anymore. And so as grade 9 went on, mm-hmm. and I would, my friends and I would go watch football games. There was a feeling I had that was new to me, and I had regret, and that stuck with me. And
it did. Hey?
Yeah. So when grade 10 came around, got another opportunity, and I said, no matter what, I'm not quitting this year.
This is it.
Yeah,
I'm in. And did they threw you right on the line right away?
Oh yeah, yeah. There was no options.
No options. Never like a long snapper or
no. That's a true skill.
That is a true skill.
And I tried. It's one of those things. The more you can do, and I could never do it. So yeah, even when I came to Calgary, leading up to coming out here, my university coach would try to teach me to long snap, and I couldn't do it. Still can't do it. So
yeah, I couldn't. Yeah. I never did play football. Some of the guys in high school, like I said, I was a hockey guy, but I was asked to play football because I was a little bigger, quicker, not tall, tiny and thick, and I played it, and I just didn't. No offense to any football. I love football. I watched, and a lot of my buddies played. I just couldn't get over the stop-start thing, and I think I probably played the wrong position. They were trying to throw me on the line too, and then I wanted to do like running back, right? Kind of made sense, but anyway, I didn't get into it, but I always appreciated the football.
Sure. And
so, but with you, did you fall in love with it right away? I mean, like you said, you went back to it, but then once you were in, and they found the right position, and that was it.
Yeah. I was in love with it right away.
You were in love, yeah.
Yeah, it was. This is the sport for me.
Yeah.
And I was good at it too. That helps, right? When
of course,
you're that age,
of course, yeah.
When you're twice the size of most kids, you tend to be pretty good when you have to move them out of the way.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't. It was a sport that came quite easy to me.
Came easy, yeah.
And it's interesting though. So I finished up my high school career. I was being recruited by U.S. colleges.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, gonna ask.
Sorry, I didn't want to lead you.
No, that's great. Yeah.
But what's funny is though, I found myself at my first training camp at Kent State University.
Yep.
And I had the same. Probably 10 days into this, I'm like, I don't think this is for me, and I struggled with every single night. I wanted to quit.
Now, was that based on the talent level, or or something else? Like
it was a bit of both.
Maybe homesickness too.
Maybe
absolutely.
Right? It's just kind of funny because I thought I was a pretty tough kid. Here I was, I was homesick.
Yeah.
We had 2-a-days then. That was my introduction into 2-a-days. You practice, once in the morning and then once in the afternoon, and you'd have meetings in between. And your life was football. Like there was no you didn't do anything else. And then a
lot of studying for football, right?
A lot of studying. Like that was the other part is you had to be in your playbook every single night.
Sure.
It wasn't fun. And the talent level, it was different, right? It was a lot faster, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. By the end of that training camp, though, I had earned a starting spot. So
nice.
I did relatively well. But I remember one night, one of my teammates quitting, and I could hear him sneaking out in the middle of the night. Right, he didn't want to face his teammates or the coaches.
Oh wow!
So he packed up his bags and snuck out. And the funny at that part, I was thinking to myself, I wasn't thinking, I can't believe he's quitting on us. I was thinking, man, I wish I had the courage to do what he was doing.
Maybe I could quit as well.
Yeah. There was two things that kind of kept me around. Number one was like, how was I going to go back home and face my friends and family and former teammates and say, I gave that up. And then number two was I remember how I felt in grade 9, and I didn't want to live with that again. So I didn't want to have regret like we talked about prior to starting here.
Yeah.
And so that just kept me, and I put my head down, and next thing you know,
You learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's good. But I mean, they don't talk about that when a lot. Like when you send when kids go off to college and school, and whether it's for sports or not, you have to. There's that adapting phase, especially when you go away. You get homesick, and some people just can't make it. And I almost cracked also, but I went to Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Like I played junior in London, and then whatever. I was doing terrible in school, is why I left, and then I went to Notre Dame. And I wanted to quit, and it had nothing to do with, it had everything to do with missing home and friends and my little pack of
absolutely
terrible pals and degenerates.
Yep.
I wanted to go back, but my parents made a deal with me. You make it till Christmas, you come back, and then we'll talk. Mm-hmm. And I did. And then by the time I went back at Christmas, I realized I missed my new friends.
Yep.
And then I went back. So that part alone is part of the adapting. But obviously football for you, doing well on the field, that was going to be the highlight to sticking it out, right?
Yeah, that certainly helped. Our first game was going to be in West Virginia. They were ranked in the top 25, right? So that was pretty
amazing.
This is pretty cool. I ended up getting hurt at the end of the last play of training camp and missing the entire season.
Oh, you're kidding.
So I missed out on that cool opportunity to play at West Virginia, but by that point I was in, and there was no turning back at that.
No turning back.
Yep.
And what'd you take? What'd you take in school?
Finance.
You took finance.
I have a business degree. Yeah.
It makes sense. Well, and you have an MBA as well, right?
I do, which I did later.
You did later, yeah.
Yeah, while I was working.
Yeah, sharp guy. Hey, just take another one off the box.
I can fool people with those letters, right?
Doesn't matter, yeah, as long as you can fool people.
Right, exactly.
It's an art.
It's an art.
Yeah. So while you're at, so how about at Kent State? I had some buddies that played there. They had hockey scholarships as well. I think they quite liked it there. But you had to be thinking, obviously, NFL first, right? And so did you get any sniffs of the NHL? And how much did you weigh in college? Were you a 300-pounder then already, or?
I was when I went. When I reported, I was 294 pounds.
Jesus, that is big.
20 years old.
20. Oh my God.
But after I got hurt, I remember a trainer taking me aside, and I was on crutches, could not put any weight on my right leg, for 12 weeks. And he just said, he goes, you got to be careful. If you continue to eat the way you always eat, this is going to be bad for you.
You're going to have problems. Yeah.
And so I started losing weight. And you can imagine, a 294-pound guy versus a 274-pound guy. Girls take a little bit more interest in you. And I was like, "Ooh, I like this." And so I actually lost quite a bit of weight, and probably played most of my career in college, probably 265, 270.
Okay.
And then built back up towards my senior season, and then where I was a better size to come to the CFL.
Bulked it up. Yeah. Okay, so after. And I'm not asking this to degrade a CFL in any sense. Were you were you disappointed? Maybe did you feel overlooked for NFL? Were you disappointed, or were you realistic? Or
I think I was realistic.
Yeah.
So I graduated fortunately after my junior year. Mm-hmm. So in the CFL draft, they would draft players during their junior year, and the NFL waits till the senior year.
Yeah.
And so I got drafted by Calgary. Mm-hmm. So I had the option: do I come back and play my senior year, and hopefully potentially get a shot at the NFL, or do I I've graduated, I go to the CFL and see where things play out that way. Mm-hmm. My junior year, we finished 0-11. It was awful.
That doesn't bode well for rankings. No.
And then when I looked at it realistically, did I have the skill to play in the NFL? And looking back now, absolutely not. Not at that point in my career.
Yep.
I would never have been given an opportunity in the NFL. So I made the right choice that way.
Yep.
And then ended up in Calgary. And
Calgary.
That was I got drafted in the spring of 94. Mm-hmm. 92, they had won the Grey Cup. They had Doug Flutie, right? There was a lot of reasons to come to Calgary. So
yeah. And so, and then when you got to Calgary, did you fall in love with the city right away, or was it did it grow on you? I know for me, I spent one summer here, and actually, I think it was 94.
Really?
That was my first summer here, and I was like, man, this city is awesome.
Yep. Well, my first year I was on the practice roster, so I dressed for 4 games, but most of the games I didn't dress in, and so when the team would travel, I'd stay back. And we had a lot of fun.
You threw it down.
So I would say I had the same experience as you. I said, this is a great city.
Probably cross paths on Electric Ave. Exactly. Fox and Firkin,
Fox
3 cheers.
And the Firkin. I joked around that the Fox and Firkin took all my money my first 3 years with the Stamps. Right?
Yeah, that was a rocking spot. Yeah. The Fox and 3 cheers. But then it just turned into that Electric Ave was bonkers after, the scraps and
totally. Yeah. You stay away.
The paddy wagon, and it was crazy. All right, so yeah, let's get into the playing days, the Stamps. So, you were 6 or 7 time CFL All-Star that I could find anyway, and CFL West 6-7 time All-Star as well. So you had a fantastic playing career here. I think you had the oh my goodness, the ring that the players vote for you.
The President's Ring.
President's Ring. You got it twice, right?
Twice, yeah.
That's a big deal.
There's awards, they're all really nice. But the President's Ring, it's voted on by the players. So that, it's got an extra incentive there. And then it's also, the most inspirational on and off the field. So it really is an honor. I remember that first time, I didn't even think that was, I'd be a possibility. And then, I won it then a second time too. So those two really stand out when it comes to an individual, we're such a team-based sport.
Sure.
So, obviously winning a Grey Cup is the best piece to it, but and individual accolades are great. But that one, those two meant a lot to me.
Oh, no question. Yeah, and I didn't. Yeah, sorry to bring those up before Grey Cup.
No, that's okay.
That's we voted on, as you said, by your peers. So it's you already had the respect at that level as a player, from a player perspective. So, and then first Grey Cup would have been what year was that?
1998.
98.
Yeah.
Tell us about that run.
So, that was pretty special. So this year. This past season was the 25th anniversary, and so we brought all the players back and we celebrated the 25th. So we really got to relive it.
Oh my God,
with the guys, and then we put on an event before our game and had fans come. It was a lot of fun. So it's fresh in my mind. You think about that. We had Garcia, like our three quarterbacks. It's crazy. We had Jeff Garcia was our starter, Dave Dickinson was our backup, and then we had Henry Burris as our third.
Oh my God, those are they're all legends.
Legends,
right?
Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible.
Yeah. And then you think of the cast of support, I don't even want to call it support because everybody, the rest of the team, they were legends in their own right as well.
Yeah.
All-Stars, Hall of Famers. And it was a team that was really, really close. That's what was special about that team is that,
it's the chemistry.
The chemistry was unbelievable. Wally Buono he was really great at keeping a core group of guys together, right? So you really did become friends off the field. And he had a knack of bringing in, great players, but also great people that would fit in and be a part of that chemistry.
Yeah.
But leading up to it, we had fallen short. When I got to the team in 94, we lost in the Western Final. In 95, we went to the Grey Cup and lost to Baltimore. 96, we ended up losing in the Western Final. 97, we lost to Saskatchewan in the semifinal. You
couldn't get over the hump.
We were an overachieving team in the regular season, and we couldn't get it done in the playoffs.
It becomes like a curse, right?
It really becomes like a curse. So then, getting into the playoffs, it's funny is one of our safety got hurt, and we had somebody come in and fill in, Dave Van Bellingham, who, exactly.
Sorry, we're laughing, folks, because Dave Van Bellingham is a character of all characters, local Calgary legend, sales guy. Yep. And anyway, okay, go ahead.
But after the fact, he told me, he goes, I recognized coming in that I could, this is coming from him, that he could ride our coattails because he's, without disrupting the team and just go along for the ride because this team was destined to win, which is pretty cool to hear. Like when you're going through it, you don't think that way because we'd coming up so short, but for him to come in and recognize that was a pretty neat thing. And so, we get into the playoffs. So I think we finished the season 12-6, which is respectable, but not as good as we had done in the past few years. So we knew we had, we couldn't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
But once we got in the playoffs, so then we did host the Western Final. We played Edmonton and, from the opening kickoff, like it was one of those things you just knew we're going to win this game.
Yeah, sure.
And and then we got into a game against against Hamilton in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And it was it's Winnipeg in November. It's cold and
freezing.
Yeah, freezing. But it was a classic game, and I think they had the same record as us. They they'd finished. They'd come off they were last place the year before and finished first place in the East. So, this was a dream season for them.
Dream for them too, yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
It was a battle literally to the very end. They scored a touchdown with about a minute.
Minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right?
And so we took the field as an offense, and I remember Jeff Garcia stepped into the huddle and he said, can't probably say that, a few words you probably don't want to share.
Hear, but that's fine. Yeah.
But, and then you knew this was a team. We were going to get this done.
This is go time.
And we kicked the last second field goal.
Yeah. Incredible.
Never forget it. So that's a lot of stress, kicking a last second field goal. But when you get into it, you go, I wouldn't want it to have a finish any other way. Like it was so awesome and so special. And I joked around, but I've never seen so many grown men cry at one spot, right? It was such a unbelievable experience.
I think when you say that, I don't think my wife or any girls would understand why I can watch replays of old games or meaningful moments and watch the guys, and I well up.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Right? And it's like, we're supposed to be tough. I'm not saying we're pussies because we're it's just the feeling of accomplishment with your team, and it's like going to war with your pals and making it and winning. There's no better feeling.
No better feeling.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Any sporting event, when I watch a championship, and especially when it's a team championship, I well up every time. It gets me, that when you see that jubilation and the fact that they accomplish their goals together, it is the coolest thing.
That's
ever.
The beauty of team sports.
It's the beauty.
Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, the chemistry. I didn't win anything in a professional level, but I was able to win a national championship in university at Acadia. And every time we all talk about it, yes, we were good and talented and all that stuff, but you just can't create chemistry. And the chemistry, we were all best friends. We traveled together. You did everything together. And even if there might be pockets of different guys hanging out with the same goal, we were always out together. And so when we look back, that's always the first thing you think of, is how tight you were regardless.
Absolutely.
Chemistry, you can't create chemistry.
Nope. You're right. It's not manufactured. You either have it or you don't.
It just happens. Yeah. And if you got one bad apple in there or a negative Nancy, or however you want to word it, it just throws the ship off.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing what that can do. Right. That's a great life lesson for, the rest, leaving your corporate world, right? You have one bad apple and it changes everything.
It's true. It's true. Well, that's, so yeah, speaking of the corporate world, after we could talk all day, obviously, on your football career, but it did lead you to the corporate world. And so what was your first venture right out of, so you decided to retire in that was 07?
07, yeah. That was 07 was my last year.
Last year, yeah. So. And so what was the first swing at the real job thing after football? What was that one?
So I worked my last 6 years. Okay. Yeah. So I started out, I started out with NMAX.
NMAX.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we rolled out, wind powered electricity. So consumers had the opportunity to purchase, for a premium, they could purchase their electricity from the wind farm.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was strict telephone sales.
No kidding.
It was great lesson to learn.
Great, yeah. That's
not a lot of fun.
Sales.
Not a lot of fun to do, to do in the moment. But I loved the opportunity. I could do it while I was playing football. It was great. I transitioned into account manager. I got to to learn about relationship building and sales and those sorts of things. So stuck with them for a couple of years. Yeah, and then I got my first introduction to the oil patch through IPSCO. I was selling pipe, It was really nice. The sales manager at the time was a former Stampeder, so he was very sympathetic to the to life, and so it gave me an opportunity and understood that although I was going to be part time and I could open doors that somebody else might not be able to because they want to talk football.
100%.
Yeah, and it was amazing. I'd go to a business meeting and we'd talk football for 50 minutes, and then we better work some work into here, and then the last 10 minutes we would talk work. So
yeah.
But it was a really nice way to get introduced into the oil industry.
Into the oil sector, yeah. Yeah, well, it's, the guys, I mean, at the end of the day, people are just people, and we're super fans of whatever sport it is. And so, I wanted to ask you how you felt being a professional athlete helped you parlay that into a marketing career. And, we've read lots about it, and if you have a sporting guy, how they make excellent marketers, or like how did that help you jumping into the corporate sales world, so to speak? For sure. Yeah. I'm biased towards football. Sure. But the things that the game of football teaches you, not any different than hockey, but maybe it's nuanced. But I think of 5 things: hard work, perseverance, teamwork, leadership, and passion. Right? Those are things. If you want to be a successful football player, you got to master those 5 things. And you're gonna have good days and bad days, and you're going to be beat up physically. You're going to have to put, you're going to have to play when maybe you shouldn't, or, and all those types of things. You're going to win, you're going to lose, and you got to, after a couple losses, you got to find a way to, all of those things, when you look at it though, those same 5 things make you
in life, generally, they'll help you succeed in life. And you match hard work, perseverance, teamwork, leadership, passion. You take those 5 things and apply it to whatever you want to do in life.
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to marketing and sales, because it can be a pretty tough, lonely spot, and you got to be able to persevere when everybody's told you no, when you can't get a phone call back.
Yeah, it's not always kind.
No, it's not
the
always
sales
kind,
world. Yeah, it's getting bruised egos, and you got to be able to take it on the chin. And
Totally.
and football, I do like talking the differences because football, it strikes me, it's very militant. I find right, like it's. I love football. I love watching, and a lot of my buddies played. Hockey players, as you know, different animal. I think the game is changing for hockey, though, how they guys train and take care of themselves. But they were always kind of wild guys. Not that football guys weren't wild. I just think how you prepare is way more militant for football than hockey. Am I right? Do you think?
Certainly, there's a level of discipline that is not only expected, it's required.
Yeah.
To be successful. And the other piece to it is, and here's why, I think from my perspective, football is the ultimate team sport. And you look at an offense, you could have Doug Flutie, or you could have Jeff Garcia, or you could have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But if the offensive line doesn't play well, he doesn't even get an opportunity to do his job.
That's right. You need the yin with the yang.
Yeah. So you really have to trust that the guy beside you is doing his job. You just focus on your job and trust that everybody else is doing their job.
Yeah.
And that's how you're successful. And the good teams, that's what each player brings to those. And so I think whereas in a hockey game or a basketball game, you could have one person that dominates and carries everybody.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
So the superstars, need the support from the rest of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot more strategical game for sure. But yeah, so in the corporate world, and I know you ended up at Trinidad.
Correct.
For how many years did you spend over there?
It was 12 years in total.
Holy Christ. Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, that's a long time in this day and age, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. People hopping around looking for greener pastures all the time.
Yeah, no, they treated me so well. I left IPSCO to join a smaller drilling contractor, Titan Drilling.
Titan, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And we were acquired by Trinidad, right? So, they didn't know me. They didn't understand necessarily the benefits of having a Stampeder there.
Sure.
But they embraced me from day one and just said, hey, you just keep doing what you're doing. And we'll make it work. And then it was a fantastic relationship. They gave me room to grow. They gave me an opportunity, and I really enjoyed my time there. I learned so much about the industry, not just the drilling industry, but the industry itself.
The industry,
And so it was a 12 years. It went by quick, and I really enjoyed it.
Rips by, yeah. Well, there how many Trinidad? They probably, what did you have? Like, what was the peak? 85 rigs, or at one time did they have over 100? I can't even remember.
Yeah, we had USA and Canada. So
right.
In total, we were up over our close to 150. In Canada, we were probably up to 85, I think, at the peak.
85, yeah. And that's all drilling rigs. No, I don't think there was any service rigs or anything.
We had service rigs for a short time.
For a short time?
Yeah. We probably had 50 service rigs for a short time, but we sold that, I think, in probably like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would you describe, because I've had to say it to a few too, like when I got hired, I was hired as the hockey guy.
Yeah.
So, and you call it PK, product knowledge, learning. How did you find learning the product, learning drilling? Because you probably dealt with the same thing I did. And every time I go to the field, and you get ripped by the guys. There's like, oh, you're a footballer, you're a hockey guy. What do you know about drilling? Like, what's this? But like we learn it. How did you find that process of learning the game?
Yeah, and you're right. And there were certain customers that just didn't. If you didn't have a background, working on the rigs, they didn't want to talk. They didn't want, which is okay.
That's fine.
That's why you have a team. Mm-hmm. And we had people that met that criteria, and then they could look after them. But I think the biggest thing that helped me was I didn't pretend that I knew everything.
Yeah, you definitely can't pretend. You get called out.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody asked a question I didn't know, I said, okay, I got
to talk to my manager.
I don't know, but I'll find out. So I think it took that perspective. And then you do a lot of field visits, spend time out of the rigs. And I made sure, like, my goal was every time that I went out to the field, I learned something new. And I 100%. Always said to our field superintendents, who would always, they'd be there as your backup and as your teammate. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, okay, every time we come out here, talk to me like I'm fresh, like I know nothing.
Yeah.
And just don't assume I know something and tell me, and just teach me what you got.
Teach me, yeah.
And it was great, which they really respected, I think. It, in the end, is like, you know, I didn't pretend I knew anything, and just I want to learn, and you want to be a sponge. And so every time I went out there, I made sure that I learned something new every time. And so that takes time, right? It's when you're only out there for a day or 2 or 3, you know, it's
little bits and pieces at a time, right?
I worked 1 shift.
Did you?
On a rig when I was at Titan.
Yeah.
And that was, I thought I knew hard work. Wow.
Oh, those boys throw it down.
It was crazy. Yeah. So much. It was great just for the respect level on how hard and how physical that job is.
Yeah, that's, I agree 100%. I was hired at Akita Drilling, and I was, initially the deal was I was to work the rigs for like 1 year, maybe even 2, can't remember. But I was to work the rigs, and then I would transition into sales. But this was, 04, 05. It was insane. It was so busy. So every time I went to the rigs, it was like, get back to the office. So I never called it a hitch because I never worked like a full hitch, but I would go and work like on a single or a double or a triple. And then eventually they were kind of like, when you go out there, don't, we need you here. Yeah. So don't get involved. So I'd have to like observe, which kind of sucked from a respect level.
Totally.
Right. From the guys. But one of the biggest things I picked up was visiting those, the crews. I thought about sports a lot in the locker room, right?
Totally.
There's such a team out there, and the dynamics. I always liked that part. I liked hanging out with those guys.
Yeah. I completely agree. And watching them work together was always amazed me, right? And you're literally like, one wrong move and somebody could die.
Someone's dying.
And so it really, they have to be tight. And the rigs that the best were always the ones that were tight.
They were tight.
Yeah. It was
back
amazing.
To chemistry, right? Yeah.
Back to chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked seeing that too. Loved visiting the rigs. I still like visiting the rigs, actually. But those guys, they don't mind calling you out.
Which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Not always funny, because sometimes you can feel your face turning red when it happens, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I had a guy ask me once, one of those pad walking rigs. Anyway, it doesn't matter which rig it was, but I was out there, and I just remember him asking me. It was the push asking me where I felt that the tool panel should be in it. And then it was like, well, and what do you know about, drilling? And I was like, well, you know what? Listen, you do your thing, and I'll put food on your table. Can you get a meeting with the president of so-and-so, right? Yeah. I had to stand my ground and puff up a bit. He was not wrong, but I had to be like, okay, but can you get a contract to work? Okay, that's what I do. Yep. So I don't need to have necessarily drilled a well. Okay,
everybody plays a role, right?
Everybody's got a role. We're a team here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I lost a little bit of respect. I can remember we did a rig tour down in Texas.
Yeah,
and I hate snakes.
Oh,
so of course I'm down there asking them, do you guys see a lot of rattlesnakes? And then they watched me, and they're like, oh yeah, they're all under the matting. Every time we lift them up, we find a bunch. And so I would not step down. I would run and jump off as far off the matting as I could.
Oh, like this is legit.
Scared. Legit scared.
Yeah.
So I got teased a lot for that one too. And
then 300-pounder leaping off the stick.
I also went to, this was so embarrassing. Yeah. And we were such a cliche, the guys from Calgary.
Of course.
And we got a flat tire pulling onto the lease. And then we couldn't even find the jack. It was a rental vehicle. And they just watched us from the window.
Oh my God, laughing their asses off.
And there was 3 of us. Look at these idiots from Calgary.
Corporate.
We deserve corporate.
Here comes big corporate.
There's the sales guys, of course, right? So pretty funny. We deserved it, right? I was like, this is so embarrassing. Let's just get this tire fixed.
Of course it went this way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, I mean, you had you certainly left an impression downtown, in Calgary. I think you're not only just a good guy, but you bring a presence and a lot of respect. So everybody respects you. I think the way you carry yourself and you handle yourself. So you had a very good career down there. So I'm not really surprised to see you end up where you're at. But how did that first, going back to the Stamps, how did that come about?
It was completely a random conversation, actually.
Yeah.
So, I've been asked a few times, was this a dream? Is this, were you always working towards this? Was this a dream? this was not even on the radar, to be honest with you. Like it was,
sometimes is the best way, maybe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It was, and you know, my previous position, you know, my last job in oil and gas was with a company called Clean Tek. I loved it. They
Great. Sorry, I skipped over that.
That's okay. Yeah. It was I loved everything we were doing. Great people. And you know, as funny as I unfortunately had just been promoted, you know, about a month before this all kind of came about. Right. And
because you became a VP over at Clean Tek.
I went there as a VP, and then I was promoted to Chief Operating Officer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, you became the COO, right?
The CEO and I had become...
Just a ladder climber, eh?
And the CEO and I had become friends, and, you know, when you get promoted, he goes, hey, you can't go anywhere now. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, right? And there's nothing that could take me away.
Yep.
Never say never.
Yeah.
And then it was a random conversation about, you know, the Calgary Stampeder alumni and with, you know, somebody from the organization. And we were kind of done talking about the business we needed to talk about, you know, from the community perspective. Yeah. And then just kind of came up about Huff retiring, you know, sort of they're trying to succession plan. And I kind of just threw out there, I go, oh, hey, if there was, you know, ever an opportunity, I wouldn't mind having a conversation about it.
I'd chat about it. Yeah, sure.
And they're like, well, we
probably didn't even think about it.
Didn't even think that you'd be interested.
Yeah, because you got this fantastic career.
Exactly.
Presumably, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'd love to have a conversation on what it looks like. Well, I was meeting with Huffnagel a week later.
Oh, wow.
A week after that, I met with John Bean, the CEO of Calgary Sports and Entertainment, which was a Friday afternoon. And it's funny is, you know, my wife asked me when I was going down, I called her on my way down there. Yeah. She's like, are you nervous? And I go, I'm too old to get nervous at this stuff.
Yeah, I'm done being nervous. Yeah.
And then coming home, I called her and she's like, so how'd it go? I go, I think I'm going to get a job offer. And she's like, I go, I'm nervous now, right?
Yeah,
like now all of a sudden, you know, things are real. And, you know, I knew I was going to have a tough conversation with Clean Tek and,
sucks, but got to be done.
Sucks. Yeah. And John called me on Monday and said, you know, we'd like to offer you a position. So it really happened over 2 weeks. Maybe it was 3 weeks, but it was quick.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
It was funny during that time in the middle of it. It was Labor Day, and my wife and I went to the game, and, you know, we knew that there was something happening. We didn't know, you know, we hadn't talked anything about salary or anything like that, opportunity. Okay. It was just like, hey, is there a fit here? Yeah. And she's like, well, what are you going to do if they offer you a job? And I said, assuming everything is what we talked about, I don't know how I say no. And she's like, I agree.
That's great. Yeah. Well, and that's your team at home, right? That's your back. That's your support at home. So she knew. She's just like, I see your eyes light up every time you talk about it. And she was like, this is something you're going to have to do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I couldn't even imagine, like, obviously hockey's not on my radar and I've been retired for 1,000 years. Yeah. I couldn't imagine if that came back into my life. Yeah, of course. You grew up. That's your passion. That is your passion.
It's my passion.
Sure.
You know, I'm passionate about the game. I'm passionate about the league, and I'm passionate about the team. It just, I remember that first day walking in, and I'm like, I can't believe it. This is my job. This is unbelievable.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, here we are, you know, 16, 17 months later, and I still feel the same way. I can't believe I get to do this.
So excited. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure they've got, I'm sure they have they do have good reason, and I'm sure there's a reason they went this route. And, you know, yourself, having come from downtown, your ties to the community, younger, obviously, you know, going from Huff to yourself, but, you know, you would bring a lot of fresh, new ideas to them. And I'm sure you've got some ideas, you know, already, right?
You know, it's interesting too. So you know, obviously I had the experience as a player. I got exposed to the business side of the CFL because I was vice president of the Players Association for 8 years after I retired. And so I got to see a side of it. So I had that experience and then the corporate experience as well, right? So it's you know, because really at the end of the day, you're running a business, right? And it's, you know, you got to, you know, figure out new ways to generate revenue and then how do we mitigate cost? It's pretty
right.
Fundamentals are the same.
Fundamentals, yeah.
And so there also is, you know, the benefit of having some fresh eyes come in and take a look. And are there some different ideas that we can look at, you know, especially when you can see, you know, the CFL and the Stampeders have not recovered from the pandemic. You know, although we are 4 years removed from the start of it, you know, we're still fighting, you know, what happened
Some
through
kind
that.
of a hangover, so to speak. Yeah,
Absolutely. And for us, and I would argue for Edmonton as well, it's been going on longer than since the pandemic. You know, the price of oil dropped in 2014.
Yep.
And, you know, companies started making moves, cutting, whether it's cutting their expenses or, you know, also staff. And we know, so we've been losing season ticket holders since 2015. And so we need to do things differently.
You got to do it differently. Yeah. You got to take a look in the mirror or throw around some fresh ideas.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to get into a little bit too, was landscape changing everywhere, like around us in every industry. So I would imagine, I had Brad Bannister on here. I don't know if you saw any of that or not, or listened, but I had Brad Bannister, and he mentioned something, and it did strike a chord with me. He said he felt like there was a general lack of recognizable faces in the sporting communities. We were talking about not just football, but the Flames, Stampeders, from the Roughnecks, and then we kicked it around. Well, maybe it's because we're a little older, we're less engaged. You know, we've got the birth or explosion of social media. But yeah, how do you see it going in terms of bringing back people, or is it, you got to change the marketing, you got to try different things? What do you see happening out there in the landscape?
Well, and that's, you know, one of the things, I think it's right. Like, so that, what you just said, I think you've summed it up perfectly. You know, I think part of it is, you know, we've seen traditional media fade away, right? You know, how many people actually open up a paper and scroll through it today? You know, we used to have, you know, the Sun had a beat reporter that followed the Stampeders. You know, the Herald did. You know, we had, you know, TV stations that would be, you know, you'd have a media scrum, you know, for our big players after every practice. And that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
You know, we might get one person, you know, that covers us for both the Sun and the Herald. You know, we, you know, have some
kind of cover everything.
Yeah. And, you know, so they're not telling the stories. You're not getting to know the players. And that was one of the things about the CFL and the Stampeders in particular, is our players were so accessible. And you got to know who the faces were.
Yeah, you got to know them.
You knew the offensive line. Like, you know, now I would challenge you, say a lot of people couldn't tell you one of our offensive linemen. Yeah, and that's a problem.
It is a problem. Sad to say that and hear that. It's true.
We've got to tell our own stories. And that is, you know, we're social media, you know, and we've talked about, do we have our own beat writer that just pumps out stories and tells, you know, we've got to introduce our players to our fans, to the city, because that is a big part of our success. And what makes us special is we really do emotionally connect with our fans.
1,000%. Yep.
And we've lost that. And, you know, what's hard during the pandemic is people, you know, we had a canceled season, and then we had a shortened season in 2021. People found other things to do during the summertime. And now we've got to try to win them back. And it's hard.
Get them back in the seats. I used to be a frequent flyer too. Like, I used to go to every single Grey Cup, and then I do tend to blame a lot of it on getting older and a family and less of that. But I do feel there's some kind of a disconnect. Yeah, from the player level, like recognizable faces in the community. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I think you probably just said it there. Yeah,
and you know, along with the canceled season and the shortened season is, you know, we also had, you know, the pandemic in terms of, you know, we couldn't do any public appearances. You know, our players, you know, who last year, you know, in 2022 we did 189 player appearances. And so we set a goal of 250 in 2023, and we actually did 422. Right, so that was 422 opportunities. You know, you got, you know, one or two players that got in front of a group of people to
get out there.
So
you know, it's got to be done.
It has to be done. And, you know, so really proud of those numbers. You know, 570 community hours. We worked with 60 schools. 24 minor football teams, and then we had 55 different charities that we worked with. Right?
Oh, amazing.
Like
Good. You got to do all that stuff. Yep.
Really, it's about bringing the community together.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And people have forgotten about that. The impact that we have in the community. We've been really trying to reconnect with corporate Calgary.
Yep.
And, we walk through a presentation, and a big part of it is, hey, we're going to ask you to partner with us at the end of this. So why would you do that?
Yeah.
And summarize it in one sentence. And it was Calgary Stampeders make Calgary a better city. And I recognize that's a bold statement. But when you walk people through and you talk about all those things and the impact, and they're like, wow, you're right.
Yeah,
I had no idea that you guys do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't.
And so we have to tell that story. We're getting better at it. I think there's still, we still got a ways to go on it, but we're telling those stories. We're celebrating it, and we're letting people know.
Well, you want those butts back in the seats and watching. Well, and speaking of seats, got to talk about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not even an elephant in the room anymore at this point. Like the stadium itself, and I'm not like expecting you to be like, oh yeah, I'm already working. I got shovels in the ground. But I mean, you guys obviously talk about it. What do you think's going to go down there?
So first off, as far as McMahon goes, yes, it's challenging, right? It's the oldest stadium in the CFL. There are some challenges with it. The concourse, we have porta potties in there, and that's not okay. And we're, so it's going to be our home for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
And so we're going to do everything we can to maximize the experience there. And we're already, I've got a business case in, for investment into McMahon Stadium.
Yep.
We talk with McMahon Stadium Society, who runs the stadium on behalf of the university, about how we can improve the experience for our fans. And so, but there also is, we're going to celebrate what's great about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, it's got a lot of character, history,
tradition, character. When you're sitting in those seats, like in that bowl on a summer night, like there's no better sight lines, and that sounds like such a cliche, but there's no better sight lines.
It's true. Yeah, it's awesome.
We we called it a couple times last year. Calgary's largest outdoor patio. Come and have a beer on Calgary's largest outdoor patio.
Yeah. Sell the party aspect, right?
Our tailgating, right?
Tailgates
is hands down the best in the league.
Yeah.
And so there is something special about when you drive up on game day and you see people, they've got their tent set up, and it's 6 hours before the game, and I was amazed, even our last game of the year, we had a blizzard leading into it.
And it was
sure enough, people were, setting up their tents, and I was like, wow, I love that they're diehard. I'm like, it's
the hardcores.
Yeah, totally. So there's a lot of great things. But we also recognize that, this can't be our home forever, and something's going to have to change at some point. And so we've already started having conversations with all the potential stakeholders, involved. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations, push, to try to get a new stadium built. We're replacing the turf next year.
Oh, yeah. Good.
So we're, my goal, and this is just, there's nothing behind this. My goal is to not ever have to replace the turf again at McMahon Stadium, because we're getting a new stadium. So
It makes perfect sense. Yep. Well, you're getting the turf done. Okay, well, that's good. I look at it the same as no different than like the Saddle Dome, right? It was kind of like they're both weathered, and it had to be time. But I feel wasn't one of the first proposals like a combo?
Yes.
Like rink, hotel, football, like the whole shebang. Wasn't that the first?
In the West Village.
In the West Village, yeah. Like that would have been insane.
And I don't know, where that went and how that.
Me neither.
But it sounded like it was a pretty cool.
I was like, oh, sign me up.
I would kill for that right now.
Oh my God. That'd be amazing. Well, and then look down the road, right? I'm sure every team in the league probably looks at riders in terms of their, their fan base, and they got this stadium is insane. And, it's Saskatchewan, no offense. It's freezing. But yet they just, they kill it, right? They're diehards. Different culture too. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yep. Less options for
options.
But it is special.
It's something to look at anyway, and I guess emulate some things. Maybe, I don't know.
I have stadium envy when I go there.
Sure. I mean, they're pretty lucky. I actually talked to Corey Mace the other day. Said to say hi.
He's such a good guy.
Oh, he's a wicked dude. Yeah, he's gonna hop on. He was just getting in Regina actually, like that day.
Really?
He was just landing, so he was boxes and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, So yeah, you've taken over the reins. So now you've got a full. I guess you've got a plan to attack and bring in some, I guess, partners and investment in the community. And how's I guess how's the team? How's the team looking? What are you foreseeing? Any exciting bright spots?
Well, we're right now we're in the window of being able to talk to free agents.
Yep.
So next on the 13th is when we can actually free agency begin. So I'm excited.
I'm sure.
You know, that's in this new role, I get to talk football a lot. You know, and I'm very careful. You know, when I talk with Dave Dickinson, like really my job, you know, is to make sure he has the resources so we can be successful in the football field. That's no personnel decisions. They don't want me, anywhere around that stuff, and I don't blame them.
No,
it's just to make sure that he has what he needs, and him and his team have what they need. But I ask questions because I'm generally just interested. I'm a football fan.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got to be careful. I always got to say this. Like I'm not checking up on you. I just like to hear what's happening. So that being exposed to that side of the business is pretty cool, and understanding their strategy and how how we're going to get better for next year. And it's, obviously 2023 was not what we wanted on the field. And, injuries played a massive role. We had 12 starters that, were out for the season. We had the highest 6-game injury costs in the league. Like
is that right?
We were decimated by injuries last year. And
I did read a lot of that. Yeah.
That doesn't help. It's not an excuse. We still finished 6-12. We got to find a way to win.
Yeah, you do.
And so just understanding what the plan is, and I trust him implicitly, and I know he's got a great staff. We added a couple new coaches this year.
Yeah.
So really excited about where we're going, and hopefully next week we're going to announce some good signings.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, I see the smirk there. That's good.
And on the business side, it's the same thing, right? Like in 2023, we invested in our season ticket holders, in fan growth and fan engagement. It's about delivering more value to our season ticket holders. Hey, you're going to show up game in and game out. We want to reward you.
Yeah.
For the fans, we want to compel fans to come to the game. And so how do we get them out of their climate controlled living room with their 70-inch TV and cold beer we got to you can't get on TV.
Got to get them there. Yeah.
So we talk about that. And then we have to grow our fan base, like whether it's, you look at 25% of Calgary are considered new Canadians. Yeah. That's a problem.
There you go.
They haven't been introduced. Many of them haven't been introduced to the game of football again. So, so how do we teach them the game of football? How do we introduce them to Stampeder
How do we get
football?
them here? Yeah.
And then I joke around about, the age of our season ticket base and our fan base. And I say, there's nowhere I should go in Calgary and feel young. And on game day at McMahon Stadium, I feel young. So we got to do something to bring our younger generation.
Get the younger pop there. Yeah.
So all of our plans last year were about.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Social media stuff.
Just
showed them my phone.
A big piece.
Yeah.
And so everything we did last year was about those three fundamentals. And it didn't translate into ticket sales last year, but we really built a strong foundation with which to grow in 2024. So we're really excited about how we can grow our season ticket base for the first time since 2015.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
It's I'm excired. In some ways it feels like the season's right around the corner. In other ways, you're like, oh, when do we start again here? So it's there's no doubt we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah.
Whether that's football, whether that's the business side of things, it's going to, when we talk about hard work, perseverance, teamwork, leadership, passion.
Oh my God.
It's going to take all of that.
She's you'd be moving a mountain here.
Yeah. But I know we have people that care about the success of this franchise and our team. And so that's a great place to start.
That's a good place to start, no question. Yeah. Well, I've always loved going to the games. We definitely fell off going, and maybe hey, with you at the helm, we'll get to get everybody back in the seats.
I love that.
And, maybe you got to go down the old TikTok podcasts. I don't know, like we were talking about this stuff. It's crazy how it's just it's such a short video centric world now, and this man, it's nuts, but it literally drives everything.
It's funny that you say that because I did a lot of research on how do we get millennials to come to the games.
Yeah.
And the fact is they consume sports differently than you or I would.
Yep.
It's short. It's in intervals, and it's not necessarily from start to finish. They want, and then they also want community. And so they want, instead of having a seat where you sit for 3 hours and watch a game, they want to go stand in an end zone and
party,
drink beer, and hang out with their friends, and then watch when they want to watch.
Yeah, they don't necessarily want to sit and eyeball every single play unless they were the diehard football
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's something we don't have at McMahon. And so when we look at, how can we, number one, attract them to come, and how can we change the atmosphere a little bit, it's about creating a spot where, we can have 1,000. I know my buddies would go hang down. Your buddies would too.
Oh yeah,
go hang down in that spot, right? Because it'd be a fun, exciting.
Make it
place
a fun
to be.
place.
Maybe have a DJ playing some music.
Sure.
It's so, we're talking. We're looking at different options and how we can introduce that in 2024.
Oh, that's great, man. I'm happy to hear that. I knew you'd have some cool ideas. I mean, you come from Party Central of the oil patch. I mean, you've seen some good parties down there. You know what make people tick, right?
I've been a part of some pretty cool experiences, and that's what people want is an experience. And so
that's right.
How do you translate that into what we're doing?
Yeah, no question. Mm-hmm. I think we covered it, buddy.
It was a lot.
I think we covered a lot of ground there. Yeah. That was I'm so happy you could join me, man. I'm very, very excited for you and the future of the Stamps. It's they're in good hands.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that, and thanks for letting me come in and tell the story, because it's a story people need to hear.
They do.
Yeah,
no question. Well, we're gonna pump it out there, see what we can do.
I love it.
Fill the seats.
Absolutely.
Okay, buddy. Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy.